I
All
didn't know my
right,
computer did that.
welcome everybody to the second episode of our podcast. My name is Seth, and today we have a really awesome guest here. We've got Nick with Apex Mutations. So go ahead, Nick, and introduce
Hey,
yourself.
guy. Well, I'm Nick from Apex Mutations. Just a normal guy out here breeding a few snakes, putting them together, having some fun, you know.
Sounds
So
awesome.
yeah,
um, I mean, that's where everybody starts at least.
yeah, for the most part. I mean, the way that I started was a bit different. So like when I was a little kid, I used to have a bunch of little fish. What were those? They're like the cichlids. I don't know if I'm
Okay,
pronouncing that
yeah,
right.
cichlids.
And yeah, I had those and piranhas and a few Oscars and stuff. And I used to like save up my allowance to go buy more. And then one day they started producing eggs and they would hatch. There's a whole bunch of little fry everywhere.
Mm-hmm.
Um, yeah, and then there's a local pet store down at where is that? Lawrence.
Oh, are you talking about
I
Pet
don't
World?
remember. Yeah, Pet World.
Yeah, I
And so when
actually
I was a little
worked there
kid,
for
I
a
used to
year, so
did
yeah.
nice. So yeah, I used to sell those little fry for a quarter each. I was getting really ripped off, but I didn't know any better. I was just selling them like 30 or 40 little baby fish for, $20 and having a good time. And I was like 10. I think I was about 10 years old at that. But I've been catching reptiles and stuff my whole life. Like I used to go down and try to catch killdeer all the time, the little birds
Mm-hmm.
and whatnot, and catch all the salamanders. So I'm from Colorado originally, so we would have little tiger salamanders up there in the southern mountains. And yeah, just always brought home animals nonstop, man.
That's awesome. Yeah, that
So,
sounds about. It seems like everybody that I have talked to and ran into, it seems that their beginning is always. As a kid, I was always catching animals and bringing them inside, and then it kind of just evolves as you get older. Um,
mhm,
because that's the
it
same
does.
same thing
I
for me.
remember. Mhm. And I remember always telling my family I was gonna have a pet store. And then when we moved out to Kansas, saw Pet World down there, and that was like the coolest thing in my life. Especially as a little kid, they used to have monkeys and stuff too.
Yeah,
So I don't think they still do that anymore.
yeah.
Um, but it was definitely cool. And then my mom would always tell me like, you can't have a pet store. You need to go to college, be a doctor, and then you could buy a pet store. And she told me that my whole life. And yeah, that didn't quite work out that way. And now clearly I don't have the overhead. So I don't know what she was thinking. But yeah,
Yeah,
I don't
I
know.
totally understand that. Yeah, it's crazy the fact that I don't know if you know this or not, but I so Kevin from Bleeding Moon, he was the one
Mhm.
that actually told me about you and was telling me about all this crazy things that you were breeding and uh, told me that you were local. And so when he was telling me, he told me that you were living in the same city I was, and so I messaged you and I was wanting to talk to you because I was like, well, I'm trying to start up this business and I'm trying to get as many people that I could under my belt that I could have contacts with. And so then that's kind of what started us talking a little bit. And then I saw you at one of the reptile shows. Um,
Mhm.
and I was like, hey, man.
It's nice meeting people at the reptile shows because for me to remember like your face from Facebook or whatever your profile pictures are, and then people come up and see me at a reptile show and they're like, hey, don't you remember me? I'm such and such. and it's not that I'm trying to be a dick. It's like, I mean, not like I'm trying to be mean, but it's like, man, I can't put that in a small picture
Right.
that I don't get to really meet. So it's a lot nicer for somebody to come up and whether I know you from beforehand or not, to at least like try to reintroduce yourself and be like, oh, hey, by the way, we talked over this, and give me the subject of what we talked over, and then it'll click.
Right.
But yeah, it's awesome meeting people at shows, because then you get to put a face to a face, and then you start to make these relationships that could actually lead you on to something else. Like I got so many people that I could have for you guys to bring on the show, just starting off, and of all different types of species. Because like I do ball pythons, I have a couple other species, but I don't breed them. They're just like garbage disposals for deceased snakes. So I don't know. Yeah, but it's it's nice getting to have that kind of interaction at the shows, because most of the time what you're going to see over social media is somebody 100% agrees with you on a subject, or you're going to have somebody that 100% has a reason to not like you, rather than finding a middle ground and actually getting to have a face-to-face interaction.
Right.
So yeah. So
Yeah.
you're out here in Overland Park.
So we are living in Ozaki now. We just bought a house. And
Oh,
so
okay.
yeah, so now we're living in Ozaki, kind of out in the boondocks. um, but
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's the
it's
place to be. Johnson County is not fun.
right. And so yeah, it's nice out here. I think honestly the worst part about it is our internet. So
Yeah, that would definitely be tough.
yeah. Um
I remember living pretty far out, and that was our problem, was internet. But
Yeah. So what are your ideas for your future for Apex? Like what is your goal here in the next year, and then what is your goal in like 5 years?
so are we talking project wise, or are we talking like breeding level wise?
Just in general for Apex. Like do you is
Okay.
if
Okay.
yeah.
So I have a few different projects that I'm working on, such as Desert Ghost Pieds. I really want to try to hit one of those in the next 3 years. I think those things really pop. But mostly for me over here, it's just a bunch of double hets. And I've been doing that for the past 3 years. Kind of creating my own little army of multiple stacked hets. So what I usually do is produce a whole bunch of really nice, visually eye-popping animals, such as like the red stripe, GHI, vanilla, yellow belly, orange Dreamanchi, and stuff like that's. It's very valuable, but it doesn't have the same power as like a clown with 3 genes on it. But the thing is you just got to put a male to it of a recessive or double recessive, and then boom, you're hatching out all these different combos from 8 codoms that are all double het something something. And then the next year, assuming you already had a female that was also growing, you could just put those onto another female, and here's things. But as for the actual projects and the directions that I go, I mostly just hold back a lot of my own hets, and I make these just really visually appealing animals that are super stacked, and those are what I'll usually sell. And what you usually find on my social media or at the shows, so. Yep.
Gotcha. Okay. It sounds like you've got a pretty interesting idea for your breeding. I haven't really heard anybody trying to do that specifically. So I think that's pretty
Mhm.
cool. I'm excited to see what you produce, and um, excited to see what they look like.
Well, thank you. I think a lot of it goes into like how your budget works, because somebody can go ahead and buy a visual with two codoms on it and then breed it to another visual that has another 2 separate codoms onto it, make some pretty neat things. But for me, I'm kind of at like the what would you call that? Like the mid-level price range. I have some higher end animals, but that's what I can afford to buy in comfortably. It's kind of like the mid-tier level. So I had to try and evolve it from there, trying to stay ahead of the people that already have a bunch of visuals or catch up to that, but they're not stacking these codoms with different patterns trying to get something to pop, so kind of how I've been doing it.
Nice. So you said you have a bunch of ball pythons, and you said you have a few other species. So one is, how many
Mhm.
ball pythons do you have right now? And then what are those other species that you have?
I currently have some of my buddies' snakes here too. A tree fell on his house and the city deemed it unlivable. So that's kind of a crappy situation. Thankfully, he didn't have too many. So I'm at 20, 40, 50. I'm somewhere in like the 78 ball pythons,
Okay.
not including his. And then I have a false water cobra and a uh, black and white black and white striped California king snake.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, they're pretty cool.
Yeah, I
The
bet that
cobra is nice.
I bet that false water cobra is, I get garbage disposal like crazy.
Yes. She poops like 3 times a week, and she has to eat like 2 or 3 times a week. And usually she'll have like 2 small poops and then one massive one that she flails her tail around and it just whips it everywhere. It is such a pain and it smells bad.
Oh, I bet.
And she's probably eaten around, I don't know, last year she ate around $6,000 of snakes that like didn't make it all the way through hatching. Like they got stuck in the shell. One of them I didn't cut in time, and usually I do cut my eggs. But I saw it and I was like, I'll cut that clutch later. And then went around and did some stuff for like 2 days, came back, and all the rest have been out for like a day except that one egg. And I went to go and cut, and I realized the shell was just rock hard. And I was like, oh no. And yeah, fed that one off too. And yeah. So she'll eat a whole snake. And I'm talking like probably about that long of a snake. So about a foot to foot and a half. She'll have that gone in less than 30 seconds. No
Wow,
problem. Yeah.
that's crazy.
She's just feisty. It's crazy too when they eat. If she wasn't in shed, I could show you how they eat because she'll eat any time of day except for when she's in shed.
Right.
So when she's in shed, she just tail whips me and that hurts. So I don't want to get whipped.
I get that. I have a Nile monitor, so I definitely understand how uh, tail whips hurt.
Nice. How big's the Nile?
He's about 3.5 foot. He's probably a year and a half old.
hmm No, I tried to have a water monitor once. That went south real quick. When I was younger, before I even knew breeding ball pythons was a thing, I had a water monitor, several bearded dragons, 3 ball pythons, a whole bunch of different cave geckos and fat tail geckos, and uh, Amazon tree boas, and different subspecies of poison dart frogs. And this water monitor was the most ferocious thing on the planet. It was constantly, even as like a brand new hatchling, it was like always hissing and irking its body at me, like trying to dodge food. It wouldn't eat if I was around. It would only eat if I was gone. And yeah, it was not nice. Had to sell that off. I was like, can't do this. Not for me. But the Savannah monitor was awesome. I had him for years and grew to be about this fat around. It's like my head, a little bit around. And probably about a third of my body. I mean, I'm not a big guy. I'm only 5'10", but still, It was a pretty decent sized snake. Did great. It would walk around. Anytime I was cooking or something, and I let it free roam for a while, he would like stick his head around the corner, and his tongue would be like just looking like, "Hey, I smell something. You gonna give me anything?" But no, great pet, great pet. You know.
Yeah, my goal is I think I want to get another monitor, and either I want to get a water monitor or a black throat, um, and right now so I don't know if you know who Kenan Harkin is or Camp Kenan. Um,
Yeah,
okay, so
yeah. We've talked
his
over Instagram a few times about things.
gotcha. So his neighbor, they just hatched some black throats.
Oh,
And
that's cool.
I think he said he had like 30. Um,
Whew, that's a lot.
yeah. And so I might be wrong, but I emailed them hoping that I might be able to get one of those. Um, but yeah, that's their monitors are really cool, especially when my favorite thing is behaviors. So I really like to read animal behavior and uh, learn how to
Yeah.
use those behaviors and work with them. Uh,
Mhm.
and so yeah, that's why monitors are like my favorite. My like pinnacle animal. A lot of people have like these some crazy ones. I've heard like crocodile monitors. I've heard a bunch of different
Yeah, those are
things.
crazy.
Yeah, I've heard a bunch of different animals, but for me is I it's probably never going to happen because they live in Australia, but I would love to have a parenti monitor.
A what?
A parenti monitor?
A parenti monitor.
Yeah.
I do not know what that is.
So it's
Is that like the one that's all speckled?
a little bit.
Sorry, I had to get the window.
It's all right. It's all it's like straight up all white and black pretty much. And they get pretty big. They are I think uh it's um compared to a like you've got the crocodile monitor, which can get like 13 foot if I remember right, because of their tail, because their prehensile tail. Um,
Mhm. Yeah,
but
they have a super
underneath
long
that,
tail.
yeah, underneath the crocodile, I'm pretty sure the parenti is right underneath there. They get really big, but they're like, if you take care of them correctly, they are very slim. They're not very big like water monitors, and so they
Hmm,
just look mean.
that's pretty cool.
So
That is really cool.
yeah, so that's like my pinnacle animal. If I could have any animal, like any reptile, that's what I would want to work with. Uh, but so there's a big thing going on right now in the United States. We've got
Mhm.
the Lacey Act that
Right.
they're taking to the House of Representative. Is that where they're going?
Yeah. So
Okay.
it passed the Senate and now it's going to the House. And then that is the last place for them to be able to make revisions without the president making a revision over a specific subject over a specific subject himself. So, which don't know how how probable that would be, no matter who the president would be. I think that would go ahead and revise like that one little bit in there out of the 3,000 something pages,
Right.
you know.
Specifically for reptiles and animals in
Exactly.
general. Yeah.
Yep.
So
So that's kind of the last shot.
yeah. So this is a really big thing. um,
Mhm.
I think everybody, if they can, I think they should definitely do anything they can. If it means sharing, if it means helping out with the dollar, anything, like please go check out US Arc. and do some research on what's going on, and please, please, please help. There is not a ton of time, so please, if you can help, I try. We have a monthly thing that we do for US ARC, and I've been sharing post upon post upon posts about this, because this doesn't just affect the reptile hobby; it affects the animal industry in general. Um, so many things
Right.
that anybody likes, um, they can easily be affected by this. So, um, again, if you
Yeah,
have
and
the means to do anything,
for
please help.
mhm. And then for anybody that doesn't quite understand why it is a big deal, it is because they already have a blacklist, but everything that they're trying to do is with a whitelist now, or is to add to a whitelist. And a whitelist says exactly what you can and can't have. And not only that, is it has to be non-injurious. So whatever they think is injurious, and by that I mean like something that can go ahead and take over habitat, but for it to not be injurious, it has to be a species that can't survive in the states without human helping them. And the problem is that they're putting that for the whole 50 US states. And so if I want to have say a nice little turtle or some guppies, okay, guppies aren't native to America. If I want to have some guppies with beautiful tails and whatnot, and I live up in Alaska, they're considered injurious for Florida, and they're not going to allow that. There's going to be no crossing state lines with that animal. Doesn't matter if it is a reptile. It could be a bird, it could be hamster, gerbil, anything. They're creating a whole list that goes, one rule applies to all. And it's very damaging because they can revise that list and add to it without giving notice or reason.
Yep,
So that is too much power given to those people who don't even know about these animals, you know.
absolutely. And especially the timing is so bad, because I know that there's a big animal movement going on. I talked about this in our last episode with Steve, and he agreed with me. And I don't know how you feel about it, but in the past few years, I can see so many people coming out of the woodwork, showing these people, and just the general populace, of how crazy and how cool these animals are, and how important they are to be here on this earth, and how we can like cohabitate, and we can live with them and not have to worry about, oh, these animals are these horrible things that are here to kill us, and that's their only thing here on this earth, is just to kill us. It's actually, they're just trying to defend themselves. So um I think it sucks that the timing.
But then
uh
it does. It does. But I mean, why is it that they got to chase after like a corn snake, and clearly there's wild cats going around killing a whole bunch of ducks and birds. I don't know, rabbits. There's a whole bunch of stuff going on, and
right,
cats will wreak havoc on a whole ecosystem.
right. it's it's it just sucks. I think instead of trying to put one rule on, like, I think with like Florida, I think they have a really good system down of the way that they handle uh like snakes in general, how they like are like, you have to have these things labeled, like they go through so many precautions on making sure that the animal is licensed, and you have to have a specific like procedure you have to do when there's a hurricane. You have to get them locked in. You have to be in a bag, in a box, locked. Like, they have so many precautions that, like, they don't need to add extra for that. And I feel like that's what started this whole um, commotion was Florida. It started with Florida, and now all these other states are taking like, oh well, we should do this too. When a lot of those, like especially reptiles, like that's not really going to affect every place.
Hmm. That's true. And then you have a lot of people saying that it's just because of the berms and retics, down in Florida. But then they'll go ahead and defend it, saying they got out from a zoo during a hurricane. Well, there's no way you can tell me there's that many from a hurricane.
Right.
Like, think of the numbers that one Burma retic can produce. They can have clutches of 100 plus, no problem.
Right.
And you get several of those adults going, and all of a sudden, some guys, or not even a guy, let's just say an 18-year-old kid, like what I was trying to do at 18, goes ahead and gets a Burma retic. They start breeding them. They end up with 90 something eggs. Let's be more realistic. We'll say like 70 or 60 something eggs.
Right.
And then only to realize they can't get rid of those things. And they're growing fast. They might start off at like a forearm length,
Mm-hmm.
but then within 6 months, you got something that's like an adult or a subadult ball python. And then out of nowhere, it's a couple feet. Like by a year and a half, you're like, crap, okay, you got to get rid of these. I can't sell them, and there's so many laws going on now that I can't just give them away. I'm going to get caught and I'm going to get in trouble. Let them go.
Right.
And I don't know. So I'm not saying that happens to everybody, but I'm saying you give it some real thought, and those species and whatnot really do wreak a lot of havoc. And there are some people that are, not doing things properly, don't know how to do things properly, and they're just irresponsible. And a lot of it is because they don't know better. You see all these videos of, let's say, Jay. Now I love Jay, really cool guy. But he's going in there, reaching through the egg and everything, pulling some worms or ticks out, and he knows why he's doing it, which is completely fine because there's no veins on the egg or anything. Clearly it's absorbed. Somebody that doesn't know that is going to go in and do it, and they're just going to completely wreck off the whole body of the animal.
Right.
And they see him producing this many eggs, and they're like, hey, I'm a young kid, I want to breed some snakes. Do it. Nope, can't handle it. Let them go.
Right.
So I understand why the laws are there.
Oh yeah, I do too.
The amount that they push, I think, is getting a little chaotic,
Mm-hmm.
because over the past few years, as reptile keepers and breeders, we've gotten a lot better, or at least the community that I've seen of that. Now, I don't deal with those species, can't really speak on it, but from what I have seen other people doing down there, they're doing a lot better. Somebody's calling me. Hold on. There. Sorry.
You're good.
But even as we get better, they're going to keep trying to push these laws no matter what state we're in, and that's the problem. And if we let them win on one, then the next state over is going to keep going. It's just it's a constant battle with them.
Yeah.
So
I feel like it's gonna be like that for a while until we.
It's going to be like that for a long time.
Yeah. I feel like we're
Yeah.
going to be doing that
Which is
for a while until we can get a big enough community where we can maybe stand up and actually have get some like big media coverage to really get the overall eye of the world of like, hey, we've changed the way that we're doing this now. We're not no longer doing any like we're no longer doing what we used to do in the years prior. This is a new time. We've updated everything, and kind of just show the fact that like this is it's a whole different story.
Yeah. It, I really think that Miguel Garcia is doing some really good things,
Oh yeah.
especially how he's bringing celebrities into the hobby because they're able to get their stuff seen. My son, he loves Face Clan, or he did. Now he's starting to get older. He's not so much into that. But he caught on to what the face people were doing and all that, and then started looking more into it. I had Summer Rae popping up on my Instagram holding snakes. She just got some snakes from Miguel, and I was like, oh, that's awesome. Then he
Oh
did
yeah.
that thing with Ozzy Osbourne of What's in the Box challenge. That's
Yeah.
freaking wicked, man.
Oh yeah.
So the more we can get these animals, or at least the word about them, kind of spread out, especially in, like you said, the social media, or not social media, in the mainstream media's eyes, the better, most definitely.
Absolutely.
So
Because unfortunately, what shows up in the main media or like that stream is all the negative. So like, man dies from cobra bite. Um, like man, like private collection gets
mhm,
like released through like out in the public, but really it's just really it's they just couldn't find it in their room. Um, so
mhm.
it's unfortunate that that's what shows up, um, and not some of these like people who are changing like completely. Like, I mean, Brian Barczyk, for example, he um, has been in the game forever, and right now with the Reptarium he talks about how um, people are coming in almost every day, that they're open and leaving changed, like completely their ideas for it has completely changed. They're like, I came in here hating reptiles, never wanting to touch them, thinking they're horrible, and leaving saying like, oh, we might be getting one. Like, that's what I wanna do for Kansas. Like, that I've ran into so many people, and we don't have that really much around here. We don't have that interaction, the physical interaction.
No, but at those expos, I do that nonstop because, like, around 50% of the people that come into the expos are actually families around here. They're not reptile owners. And all of us reptile owners or breeders, we know each other. So when we're all setting up and we see everybody else walk in, that we can tell, oh yeah, that guy, that guy, that guy, that guy. Especially with me being admins of all of our local groups, I see the people that come through, and you start to know who the regulars are, what they got. I know what such and such Jimmy over there, as soon as he walks in the door, I know what he's looking for. He's
Right,
gonna want these the lily white crested geckos here shortly. So I know he's gonna skimp right over my table, say hi, and go keep going.
right,
Then you get people coming in with their 4 and 5-year-old kids, and they're sitting there tapping on all the enclosures. Oh, look at this snake, look at that. And I'm just like, hey, you want to touch it? And their parents like, no, no, no. And I'm like, no, 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 it's all right. It's all right. Just give it a shot.
right,
I'll hold its head so you can touch the body. So I come out around the table, make sure they use sanitizer, and then I pretend like I can hold the head. Can't hold the head on a ball python, but most of mine are pretty. So I'm sitting here handing off. I'm like, put your hands like this, and I'm gonna hold the head, okay? So they put their hands like that, and I pretend like I'm holding the head, and I'm like, there you go, you're doing it, look at you. And they're like, whoa, and they're just having the time of their life. There was somebody I saw at the shows, um, probably for the past year, that just bought 2 snakes for me at the last expo, the one where I was in the hallway. So that was really cool because I
that's
just thought they
awesome.
were coming up to say hi, to come and hold a couple snakes, look at a few things like they usually do, take some photos. They're like, you know what? We're ready. We want these two. I'm like, really? All right, that's awesome. And it wasn't anything high end. I think one of them was like a just an inchy, and another one was a red stripe. And I was like, that'd be great because these ones are doing awesome. They're not too feisty. They're still hatchlings, so they're a little feisty, but you want to pick them up faster when they're smaller. Um, a lot of people don't know that, or they don't explain that with babies. Once they buy them, usually the babies are the aggressive or mean ones,
Right,
but they're just afraid.
right.
So. But yeah, it was cool selling those people their first 2 snakes, and that was awesome.
Yeah, that
So
sounds awesome, man.
you can
Like,
still do it. Mhm.
yeah, that's
Go
what
for it.
we are working right now towards actually thinking about getting a booth at one of the reptile shows, or maybe consistently. And we have some like
Mhm.
some jewelry and some stickers and stuff like that. But um, we're just to be there, just to offer that like experience, because we have a black and white tegu, we have a 9 foot retic, we have we've got like a 15-year-old ball python, we've got a corn snake, we've got a Kenyan sand boa, we have um, a uh, a BCI, we've got um, like we've got a bunch of different species that I know that they like people would love to be able to like just interact with them and hold them. Um, and
Most
we
definitely the tegu. The question for you though is, are you willing to risk getting mites for that?
see, I thought about that. That's
Because now, do you guys have any form of mite treatment that you currently use?
not yet. We have the stuff, but I've been doing research, and they've talked about how it might be a good idea to start just do a normal treatment consistently, just always, even if you don't have it, just
Now,
for like
what's the stuff called?
um, I can't remember. It's I bought it from Pet World. It's probably not great, um, but it was like they're like
Hold on.
okay,
This is all you will ever need. I have cleared dozens of collections just in the past like 6 months with this. Not my own snakes, but plenty of other people's. I help them out. It is a thing called Frontline.
okay,
Super easy. You just get a glove on your hand, spray it like 2 or 3 times, get the snake out, let the snake run through your hand. Mite's dead immediately.
gotcha.
The only thing it doesn't kill is the eggs, but it creates this sheath that goes over them. It's like a film. This is alcohol based, so you know as soon as it starts to dry, you can actually see the difference. But it sticks to their skin the whole time. Sorry, sitting in this room, not moving around makes it a little hard to breathe.
I
It's
get
hot.
that. Yeah, I
It's hot in
bet.
here. It's like 83.
Yeah,
But yeah, so the way that I do this is I clean out the whole tub. You scrape everything out, then you wash it, let it dry. Since this is alcohol based and oil, it's like a compound between rubbing alcohol and an oil. So if you use water droplets, it's gonna start to like separate. So you gotta let it dry completely. Then here, I'm gonna go ahead and show you guys this. This is gonna save you time and energy to never worry about my skin. I'll give you a quick 45-second presentation on this. And it's safe for hatchlings and breeding adults. Used it last year, and I do it after all the shows. And used it last year on a female that was gravid, laid eggs perfectly fine. It stays on them until they shed. Oh, let me grab a snake. So this one, spot nose, het desert ghost, het clown, pos het pied. Look at those tracks. Nice. This is not a cheap animal, and this is a female.
gotcha.
So do this. You get the tub. We're gonna pretend like this is already scrubbed clean and everything like that. Then you just lightly mist the tub. Ta-da. So you get a little bit of specks here and there of it, but essentially it creates this coat over it. Let it dry again. It takes about 15-ish minutes to dry. I usually wait about 20 to 30 minutes because whenever I do treatments, I treat everything. So, yep. Then you spray your hand a few times, get on the snake, you avoid the eyes, the mouth, and the heat pits. but you want to rub the top of the head real quick going down, and then you go under the chin, and then you just let it run through your hand, and it'll kill off all existing mites. And then by treating the tub, any mites that try to come back into the tub, because they travel, and half the time, by the time you have mites on one animal over here, there's already mites laying eggs on this side of the room or down in the carpet. So, yep. And then once the eggs hatch, any mites that you missed, they'll die on their way to the animal, especially if the animal's already coated back in again. And that's it. All she wrote. Don't bite my finger. Oh, she might wrap me up. No, she's not. But yeah, the only thing is, like, you can't spray the animal directly. You probably can. I just don't do it that way because it takes a second for the odor to like dissipate. But yeah. And it is used on multiple species all the time now. And it takes literally like 10 to 30 seconds to treat an animal, assuming your tub's already clean. And if you don't feel like treating the tub, you don't have to. I do. But super easy. Just remove the water bowl for the first 48 hours after you treat, 24 to 48 hours. And
Gotcha.
yeah. Any mites, never a worry in my mind again. Super easy.
Gotcha. That's pretty cool. That's awesome that it's that simple.
Yep. And I have people hit me up nonstop for that. I actually have to shoot a video after this on how to reapply it, because I have one video up on YouTube, but it was, oh crap, now I got hiccups. Oh, excuse me. I have one video up on YouTube, but it's super long and it explains everything very detailed and constant examples. And yeah, I want to make a shorter, better quality one for everybody. But yep, good stuff. Oh,
Yeah.
and you can use it on glass enclosures too. My false water cobra had it on her enclosures, and I haven't used it in 8 months on that. I tried to buy around $70 worth of isopods like 2 months ago. Put them in there, dead. I was like, damn it.
Gotcha.
That was a waste. Yep, so it's still effective, unfortunately, for that. She doesn't like when I clean her enclosure. She's not nice, but
Gotcha.
yeah.
All right. That's pretty cool though. That's
Mhm.
yeah, that's definitely something that we've talked about. I know a lot of people say that if you haven't had mites before, you haven't been in the game long enough. Um,
That got me out of the game years ago. So like when I first tried to start breeding, I was already breeding my poison dart frogs, Amazon tree boas, and my what are those? My bearded dragons. I started breeding ball pythons, or wanting to breed those. This is back when bumblebees were $775. That's what I paid for my bumblebee. My Mojave was like 625, and no, 525. Yeah. And got mites, and this guy that was in the hobby at the time was like, yeah, you sprinkle 7 dust across your enclosure and get it on your mites too. Or not on your mites, on your snakes too, just lightly, kind of like salt and pepper. So did that, killed off almost everything I had except for like 4 snakes. It was too toxic, and I was like, oh. So yep. Then I had him again for the first time about 2 years ago. Used that frontline spray, gone in a day. So
that's awesome.
good stuff.
Yeah, sounds like it.
Yeah. The only thing that you wouldn't have to worry about with mites is anything that has like the scaly skin, the leather kind of skin, like a bearded dragon or your tegu. I don't think tortoises can get snake mites. I don't know. But I know that with the overlapping scales, those are what the snake mites usually will try to go under and
Gotcha.
do. Mm-hmm.
All right. Well, I appreciate you letting me know and letting the listeners know. That's a really good tip for that. So is there a species or maybe uh, a morph of ball python that you really want to get that is like on your list right now that you're working towards?
Um, for my list, I think a hmm, what I'm trying to do is create these Orange Dream Inchy Fire Desert Ghost Exanthic Pies, but I am definitely 5 years away from that at least, and that's if all the odds are in my favor. So there's that. As for species, a false water cobra, I saw it on the cover of a reptile magazine when I was 12, and I was like, I want that. And yeah, I ended up buying her. So I got my dream species here. Um, the next thing that I really do want to try and get into as for actual species, like for breeding purposes, would be to get Amazon tree boas again. As I stated, mine passed away. This was years ago when I was 18, and I got out of the hobby for 6 years. Got back in it about 4 or 5 years ago. Um, and I really want to get Amazon tree boas again. I think that would be awesome, or some carpet pythons or chihuahuas. So those are one of those three are going to be my next species for breeding. My next pet would probably be another Savannah monitor. I miss mine a lot. Mine used to have this massive enclosure with a concrete hide that I made, and he got strong enough to move that hide, and it was a huge, heavy hide. And one day I came home, and he moved his hide, and he had hanging heat lamps that I don't remember the watts on them. They're pretty big. I'm gonna guess it was 160-watt heat lamps to reach down 3.5 foot.
Gotcha.
And he moved his concrete hide, and I'm guessing he stood up and grabbed that lamp and clinged on and pulled it out from the hook that it was secured with. And I came home and I found him underneath it cooked.
Oof.
Uh, so that sucked because they don't have the same neuro pathways that we do to sense things get hot or cold. You know, he
Right.
just thought it was warming him up and cooked himself.
That's rough. I'm
So,
sorry, man.
yep.
uh,
Look, when you get into this a little bit more, you start to have accidents happen all the time, and you just got to learn from each thing. I never thought my Savannah monitor, when it's sitting here at 12, 14 pounds, is able to stand up on 2 feet and pull something out from the ceiling,
right.
and severely underestimated that.
Yeah, I get that.
But
We one of our
yeah.
bearded dragons, he's got a metabolic bone disease, and he
Mm,
he was they're both rescues, and they were put in together in the same enclosure, and one of them was just pretty much became just bullied the other one. He ate everything, so
yep.
uh, the other one he just struggled, and we when we got him, we separated them, put them in different enclosures, started making sure, trying to get him up, and we didn't see some of the underlying like small showing of MBD until it
Mhm.
got too bad, unfortunately.
Yeah.
Uh, and
With
so,
those, you really don't see the progress of it. You look at it and you'll see something and you'll be like, oh, I need to bump up your feeding a little bit. Maybe I need to make sure you're actually drinking more, and then by the time you start to notice what's actually going on, it's already full set on diagnosis of it. And it's like, oh, shoot, that sucked.
yeah,
You know,
because
like I
we took him into the vet because he got sick, and when he got sick is when everything kicked up and got like pretty much got into full blown. We took him to the vet. We got medicine in him, and they said that it looked like he had MBD, but it wasn't a very big showing of it. It was enough for them to diagnose it. But then uh, we gave him his medicine. He got better. He started eating, and then within a month later, his head starts to vibrate. Um, and now that's like almost a consistent with him, is that his head shakes
Mhm.
consistently. So
Right.
it was rough. We were like, no, and all they said
Hey,
was, just as long as you make sure he doesn't lack anything, he just continuously with his feeding and everything, make sure he's got enough calcium and enough his UVB is good and everything like that. There's nothing you can do. Just make sure it doesn't get worse. And we were like, all right, sounds good.
yeah, it happens. It definitely happens. I had when I was younger, is still again back when I was 18, I had a bunch of, like I said, I had some cave geckos and stuff like that. Well, I had these, what were they? I don't remember the morphs, but they're like a bunch of, I think raptor something fat tail geckos, and they were significantly larger than my cave geckos. And I had them like housed in the same enclosure, and it was a beautiful setup. There were tons of different caves and hides in there. Um, and nope, I just came home one day and I saw one of my geckos go after the cave gecko and just bit the tail and tugged at it and like ripped the whole thing off. And this cave gecko is like this big. It's in there just squealing super loud. And I was like, oh no, why would this happen? You guys don't eat geckos. Like, there's just so many mistakes that you make when you're first trying to learn things.
Right.
And I mean, everybody's going to have them. You really shouldn't shame anybody for it and try to help out, I think is like the big thing,
Yeah, I agree.
especially nowadays with all the resources that we have. You know, this is like 12, 13 years ago when I was trying to do all this stuff. I didn't have any resources like this. So
Right.
it's awesome now.
Oh, for sure. And I think that's probably why we are moving so forward now. Is because now
Hmm.
there's more information out there, and people are now able to express and not just keep it into their group and who they know. Now they can tell the world that, hey, I've learned this really cool like monitor behavior, like being able to show that, hey, we can actually socialize monitors. Um, I think that's freaking awesome. And when I learned that, I was like, this is I love this. This is so cool. Um, and so I was like, well, I watched every single video I could about socializing them, and then I got our Nile monitor, and I've made mistakes with them, and uh, but we're also making a
And you're
lot of
going to
progress.
keep making mistakes.
Yeah,
It happens. So,
yeah, for sure.
like with my false water cobra, they have a really high intelligence for snakes, and it does remind me a lot of a monitor. Um, but man, I was constantly studying for probably about 3 years before I pulled the trigger. I found a breeder. He's Kyle Wilson. He breeds a lot of the more rare species of colubrids and stuff, like caribos and things that a lot of people want but don't know how to get.
Right.
And he doesn't really sell on anything, and he doesn't go to the shows. He doesn't do anything. He's just a farm boy. He's a dad, husband, stay at home, loves his life and likes being private. So found him, put a deposit down on her, and man, I just kept watching videos and kept studying and trying to figure out how to raise these things to be nice. She was perfect all the way through, like as a hatchling like this big. Her little bitty hood, she just hoods up. She goes, cute, cute as could be. And then yeah, I had a routine with her and everything, and I stuck to it for the past year and a half. And then she hit like a 3 foot marker. As soon as she hit that, went into shed, came out super mean. And she's been mean as heck ever since. Like it was so bad. So now I can't hold her. It's like no matter what I do, man, I cannot hold her. I try and I try and I try, and she either runs as fast as she can, tail whips, throws poop at my head. She'll swing her head around and just open launch her mouth at anything that it can grab. And it's like, all right, just calm down. I'll leave you alone.
Right.
Leave me alone. I will never do that. Like
Right.
that species terrifies me. It is absolutely terrifying. So she's for look. It's
Right.
kind of just how it's gonna be,
Yeah, I get that.
you know.
I mean, I think
Mhm.
a lot of people are um, think I'm crazy because for our business, once we get into a building, I want to start having venomous. I want to start keeping venomous specifically for educational
Yeah, I'm
purposes.
not doing that. I ain't never doing. That's about as hot as I'll get on the
I was
snake
about to say that's
scales, you
at
know.
least mildly hot.
It's mildly venomous. Okay, so the way that their teeth are shaped are really weird. So their fangs are in the back of their head, right? Not the front.
Mhm.
But the way that their fangs look, here, I'm gonna bring you over to the whiteboard for this.
Okay.
So I'm gonna draw what I see. Because it's not like 2-point fangs down like a tooth. And I only saw this when I was feeding her, and I know she was just slicing this rat up. And I was like, what in the world? What's going on? And she uses these teeth that are shaped like that.
Huh.
I don't know if you can see that.
Yeah, I can. Interesting.
And yeah, so all the rest are like this across the mouth, you know. But then she has these up here where the venom glands come from, and that's like the weird fang,
Gotcha.
you know, and it's super sharp. So what I noticed that she'll do is she'll cut along something instead. It is just really weird and not something I want to get bit by.
Right. I get
Just
that.
one.
But thank you guys again for watching and listening. Um all right, Nick. So we're gonna go ahead and wrap this thing up. I appreciate you
Mhm.
coming on and being my second guest for our podcast. I appreciate it a lot. Um
No, thanks
and
for inviting me on.
of course, man. So is there anything you want to go ahead and plug, like your social media or anything like that?
Yeah. Number one is gonna be US Arc. Okay. That's gonna be the biggest thing I want anybody to go ahead and check out if you don't know what it is.
Absolutely.
You know, just go to US Arc. Okay, it's super important. Donate what you can. And if you don't have any money and you got an extra animal, donate the animal, do anything, literally anything, or spread the word, share it. As for the Lacey Act that we have, I have several links on my Facebook page, Nick Papa. And I have it in my notes too. So if you message me on Instagram, Apex Mutations, YouTube, Apex Mutations, TikTok, Apex Mutations, I have the links to go to, and you can go ahead and copy and paste the sample letters for you to send to your state representatives to help fight this. And again, those are also all my handles. I want to thank Chris, Ball Pythons 101. He's been my mentor the past several years. Let's see what else. Kendall Thornhill, also one of my mentors. He's with Black Label Balls. And yeah, that's really it. I
All
just
right.
appreciate you guys for having me on.
Of
So
course. Well, I look forward to seeing what you can produce in the next year, and excited to see your progress with Apex. And again, want to say thank you for coming on. It was a blast.
for sure. Yes, it was. All right. You have a good one.
All right, you too. See
See
you,
you
man.
guys.